So way back at the beginning of the year, way back in Unit 1, Lesson 17, you actually learned about the zero product property and how to solve equations when they were factored, when the equations already had the one side was factored. So just to refresh your memory, we learned that the zero product property was if A times B equals 0, then either A equals 0 or B equals 0. And that makes sense. Basically what that says is if I have two things that are being multiplied together to get 0, then either A equals 0. One of them has to be 0 in order to multiply to 0. So back in Unit 1, you looked at examples like this one right here. You would say, okay, I've got x plus 7 times x minus 3. So I've got two things being multiplied together to give me 0. And so if you recall, what we would do with that is we'd say, okay, well, then either x plus 7 equals 0 or x minus 3 equals 0. And then we would solve both of those equations for x. So I'd subtract 7 from both sides and get negative 7. And on this side, I would get x equals 3. So there was two values of x that would actually make that equation true. So the same thing is going to be true here. It's just the only difference is now that you know how to factor, I'm going to give you the same exact thing, but you have to do the factoring. So here are the steps. The first step is you need to get the equation into standard form. And standard form would be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So basically what that means is move everything to the other side of the equation so that we get equals 0, and then put it in our familiar factorable form. All right. So in this example right here, I have to subtract 5 from both sides. This method only works if we're equal to 0. So that's always going to be the first step. So now I have x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Okay, step 1 done. Step 2, factor. So in this case, you follow your factoring. So I'm ignoring the equals 0 here for just a moment. And I'm going to factor this guy. Well, this you know now is a regular trinomial. So x times x, two numbers that multiply to negative 15 and add to negative 2 are going to be negative 5 and positive 3. And then so the third step is going to be set both factors equal to 0 and solve. So this is the actual zero product properties part. So the last step is going to be, okay, well, I've got two things being multiplied together that equals 0. So that must mean one or both of them equals 0. So add 5 to both sides, x equals 5. Subtract 3 from both sides, x equals negative 3. And now I'm done. So what that means is if I took these two values of x and I plugged one in at a time, so if I plugged 5 in here, if I plugged 5 in here and here, that would make this statement true. If I plugged negative 3 in here and here, that would make this statement true. And that's how we solve quadratic equations.